deer aren't coming to you, you don't like sitting and waiting, then go to them. Hi, my name is Roy Canterbury, and today I'm going to be your host on Arch Talk 101. And what we're going to talk about today is walking through the forest, stalking deer, um, hunting them on the move. Whether you're moving into your tree stand, moving from your tree stand, or that's your whole hunt is just spotting them and stalking them and going that way. Before we get into our topic today, I would like to offer all of our listeners a 15-minute call with me. I've been teaching archery for over 25 years and I've learned a lot of secrets and I can help you out. And so get on that call. I'll leave a link in the description to fill out a form so I get to know you a little bit better. And let's get together and talk about some archery and see if there's a way that I can help you improve your archery skills. Now back to the show. Let me get into a little description of what hunting deer on the move is. Well, it's stalking the deer. It's not waiting on the stump or in a blind or in a tree stand and waiting for the deer to come to you. That's how I normally do it. I have done both methods uh, with some success on both of them. So, uh, as you like to sit and wait for them, sometimes, that's just not the way to do it. So we're going to go over a few things you can do when you're out hunting. um, I know if you're hunting evening hunt, you're going into your stand during the day, which is hunting time. And why not use that opportunity to see if you can spot some deer on the way in and before you can get to your stand or your blind or wherever you're going to hunt. So this could be, rewarding in itself, the experience that you can move up onto a deer and get that close to them. I know one time I was out and I was walking and I seen this deer bedded down next to this little uh, road in the farmer's field, and it was bedded down there and there's some grass in there. So I took off my boots so that I could walk quietly, and I got closer, and then I got down really low. There's a little bit of cover there, and I got within about 5 feet of the deer, and then I was like, how am I going to sit up and draw my bow because there was no cover for that. But I was able to sneak clear up to him so that, it would have been like a 5 yard shot. And, I didn't plan on how I was going to be able to draw. If I had a crossbow, I could have, had it there. But with a bow, you have to have a little bit higher. So in the process of getting up, but that was a good experience on spotting a deer and then quietly moving up to where you was within range of them. That can be, that was an experience in itself. I didn't get the shot, but the experience is something that was really, really, um, good experience I took from that stalking thing when I was able to stalk it to them. What you need to do is you need to slow everything down when you're doing this method because, your eyesight, your breath, your walking gait, um, that's all going to pay off in the long run. You're going to see more of what's in the forest, all the wildlife, because you're not disturbing them. While you slow down, you're going to spend more time looking and enjoy nature because everything's just going to slow down and you're not in a rush to get to anywhere. Um, so when you're pausing to take a look and listen, that's when you see things that you may not even know was there because you're looking uh, for the deer and listening, and you're just listening to all the sounds in the forest. It's amazing the sounds that you'll hear when you slow down and you just start focusing on what's going on. I remember one morning in the tree stand, it was all quiet. Then I heard what sounded like an elephant going through the reeds. There was there were some reeds a little bit further away, the direction I was actually looking, and I just heard this terrible noisy racket going through there. And I thought, who is walking? What's the inconsiderate person that's walking in at prime time for shooting? It's that just after sunrise. It's that perfect time for hunting. And who's making all this racket walking through the reeds? And it started getting a little bit closer. Next thing I know, I figured out what was making all the noise. It was a small buck. There's walking through the reeds, making all kinds of noises. Everybody thinks, deer are really quiet. No, this guy wasn't. He was noisy. and he made lots and lots of racket going through there. And I actually used that little buck. He come up. I wasn't going to shoot because back then we had two tags is all we could get, and I wasn't going to shoot a small buck. I was going to wait for a big doe or a big buck. You know, you don't get much meat out of the small one, so I was going to let him go. So I took and just he come to not even a shooting lane, but right before it, I could see him. He stood there for a while and then turned around, just moseyed off. And I thought I'd use my call, a deer call on him, and I heard him turn. And next thing you know, he walks down the other side of my tree stand. And a few minutes later, here comes this big buck behind me, which I had no shooting lanes, and because I got the attention of this other buck in there, and just that's the time to take a look and see what's going on. Practice with some of your calls, when you're looking at. Just don't teach them what to do. Let's talk about things I've learned, while hunting deer in the woods in Nebraska. That's where I live, is Nebraska. Most of my hunting has been in Nebraska, so that's where my experiences lie. And you can use some of these techniques that I've learned the next time you go hunt. Take advantage of experience somebody else has had and apply it to your hunt. That's how we all learn. I know when I first started out, it was if I seen a deer print in the dirt, it was a good day because I had nobody to learn from. Nobody I knew deer hunted, especially with bows. Anyone I knew that hunted, they did it with rifle. And I was bow hunting, and I wanted to learn how to bow it because that's where my passion lied, was in archery. Um, Shooting guns is fun too, but I just like the challenge of the bow, and I'm learning, and then you go into you figure out how to start listening and looking for signs, and then it got to where I could, I finally seen a deer, and then it's like, oh man, this is a great day. I see one. Might have been on a drive in, running through a field, but at least I got to see one. And then now, of course, deer being more prevalent, so it's a bit more, but then I got to where I go out and I expected to see one, maybe not within shooting range, but I expected to see one most every time I went out. I'd learn how to figure out where they're at, where they're going to be. And, one of the things you can do as you're going through the forest, you want to use some of these techniques I'm going to go over here today, going through there, because if you make a lot of noise, they're going to be gone. You're not going to see them because they're going to hear you coming or smell you coming. So they're going to see that and hear that and be gone before you even get there. So that's one of the things that you can learn. So things I go through here as we go through this today is some of the things that you can learn, and that'll help you in finding out what's going on. Of course, now they have the trail cameras, which you can put them out and let them run and figure them out. But it's not cheating; it's using what you have. Whether you're still hunting or not, the principles are the same. You want to have that experience, and even when you're sitting in a tree stand, you want to be looking and listening. I've had deer, next thing you know, they're right underneath me, and you didn't even see them come in. They just kind of appeared, really quiet. They looked the opposite of that one little buck I talked about earlier. Made all kinds of racket going through the reeds, and then all of a sudden, there's one appeared underneath your tree stand that you didn't even know about. So that's where you need to get in, looking and see some of the stuff I'll explain a little bit later here. You want to deer hunt with a soft focus. Explain what I mean is a soft focus. We see, as all do predators, forward with a focused, forward and focused. Our eyes are both in the front, so we can focus on one item at a time. We're going to take a look at, the average, take a look at the average house cat. Have you ever watched one of them stalking something? Its eyes are first right on that item that they're stalking. Whether it be a bird or a squirrel or just something they see moving, a mouse or something. They're narrowed, every muscle's relaxed, but yet they're ready to pounce at a moment's notice. And one of the things we share with the cat, as well as all predators, is having eyes in front of our head, because that's designed to focus on a single thing. Now, deer and prey animals, their eyes are designed to detect motion. Their eyes are more on the side of their head. If you look at the deer, their eyes are on the side of their head, not focused forward. Where the cat and us and other predator type animals were in the front, so we can focus on one item. Theirs are more designed to look at motion. They're going to perceive motion first before they can determine whether it's a threat or not. They're going to look for that motion in the woods. Um, when still hunting for deer, you must adapt to the way they see. They're going to see that motion and pattern in a pattern out of sync. They're going to look at the forest as a whole and take a look at thing as a unit, not as a specific tree. You don't want to look at the tree, you want to look at the forest, and you're going to see the movement in there. One way you can determine this, you can see how that field of view is a little different. Now, here's how you can practice. You're going to stand facing a wall, about 6-8 feet away, something like that, and you're going to stare at a hard spot on the wall. Just stare at one. You could put a little piece of tape on it and focus on that little piece of tape. Raise your arms off to your side, your fingers pointing out, and now you're off to the side. Now, what you want to do is look at that one spot, stare at that one spot, and start moving your hands in until you can see your fingers. Now, once you can see your fingers, now you can look and see at the side and see that's your field of view. The opposite of that is to not focus on it. Kind of just like gaze, don't stare at anything, and look and see where you come in and see where you see your hands. So now that is your field of view if you don't focus. So don't focus on a specific item. Just look at the whole thing in general. Um, we teach that, in the many years of martial arts I did, we teach that as well. You don't want to focus. They say focus on your eyes, focus on your eyes. The eyes will tell you what they're going to do. Well, you're focusing on the eyes, you don't see what the feet are doing. So you want to gaze more like at the chest. Just look at the whole thing, and you can see what the feet are doing, see what the hand are doing, see what the head's doing. You can see the whole thing if you don't focus on one specific item. So that's what we want to do as we're out there walking through the forest, as we want to not focus on one thing, just focus on a general pattern and look for those pattern interrupts, something that's different in the view. We want to learn to look at the whole picture and then see changes in pattern. By practicing this, you're going to get a little bit better at seeing a deer. Have you ever noticed somebody that can spot a deer in a field or edge of a forest while driving? You're just seeing that pattern interrupt. You're going down, and whether you're driving or not driving, if you're not focusing on one specific thing, like that car in front of you, you're seeing the whole thing, and all of a sudden this pattern interrupt comes in and says, "Oh, something there! Look, oh, that was deer," and just keep going. Um, I know when I was a kid, I was going out hunting in the state I was in. You could drive down and you could hunt off the roadsides where they was at. And I would drive down with my uncle, and we're driving down the gravel roads, 50 mile an hour, and I just pheasant. I'm like, how did you see that? All I can see is a blur going by. Well, what I was doing was I was focusing on the trees going by, not seeing past the trees. And as I got older, I learned what he was doing. He's not focusing on the trees, those. He's looking actually through the trees into the forest or the side of the road, and you can see those little patterns of that pheasant standing there in there, not aware of anything. Now, if you stop and back up, they hide. So that's some of the stuff you want to do. Start looking at the whole picture and look for that pattern. There's things we can do when we're walking that's going to help us in that. Now, earlier I alluded to taking my boots off, because one thing in boots, there's a little bit harder. Your feet can feel what's going on. So what you want to do is walk from toe to heel and not heel toe. So as you put your heel down, that's going to make a little bit more noise than walking on your toes first. Before we get too much into the walking, let's take a look at your boots and your shoes. The heels are hard and inflexible, whereas the toes are a little softer, more flexible. As you're walking, normally walking, you put your heel down that nose. As you move onto the toes, that front of that toe, the leather or rubber, whatever the toe is, the shoe's made out of, it will bend and flex. You can feel stuff as you step on something hard with your heel. You don't normally notice it, but you step on the ball of the foot or the toes, the front part of the shoe, you're going to feel it. The same thing goes for your feet. If you have your shoes off, you're going to feel stuff with your toes and the balls of your feet because they're more sensitive than you will with the heel. Sometimes you can step on, stuff on your heel and you don't even realize you did it, but on the toes, you're going to feel everything. And that's when we're walking through the forest. You want to be able to feel everything. Now, you're going to see sometimes, hunters walking through the forest, and they're hunting as if they're on rice paper, trying to make no noise at all, just being really quiet. Everything in the forest makes noise. A hunter's going to make noise going in, but so the deer, like I talked about earlier, that one deer made all kinds of racket. Listen to the squirrels as they're scurrying around. They're making all kinds of racket, but it's not this step, 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 step. They might move a little bit and stop, move a little bit and stop. They're just kind of scurrying around, not really doing anything specifically. And if you've ever seen any deer reacting to a squirrel, they're going to hear the sound. They might look over and just ignore it because it's normal. They hear it all the time. It's a normal sound. So you want to be listening to that as you're going around. I was listening to a guy one time talk about, spot and stalking. He was an older hunter. At that time, he was way older than I was because I was pretty young. But he was telling me, he says, well, older now, so I don't walk too fast. I don't see very well. And what he would say is he'd just kind of shuffle his feet rather than pick it up and sticking them down. He'd take a few steps, stop, and listen. He says, because I don't see very well, I have to do a lot of looking, so he can finally detect some of that stuff. He would go through, not worry about trying to be quiet, not walking that heel toe cadence, like you're marching through the forest. He would just kind of shuffle a bit, kind of imitating like a squirrel. You go through, you make a few steps, so you make noise. Everything makes noise in the forest. And then he'd just slowly just look around and he'd listen for any noises. And then just a little bit, move on. Now, he was a very successful hunter in that way, so I was listening to him, it's like, oh, this is good information. I'm able to use this sometime. And I have tried that. I have gone through, and I remember one time I was walking through a forest, and I was like, I'm just going, because I was doing an evening hunt, and I'm walking through, being real quiet, not really being quiet, but I mean, I'm moving and kind of being irregular. And I look and listen and look and listen. And I'm not too far away from my stand. And I was like, I'm not seeing anything. So I just started walking. Up pops a deer, runs off. And I said, well, I kind of messed that one up. So I said, well, okay, keep walking. And then another one got up, so, I blew it twice, Now, because we're walking toe to heel, you're kind of stepping down with your toes first. This is going to allow you to be responsive to twigs and deadfall, on your feet, whatever. You're going to be able to feel that, and it's going to be, a quieter way to walk through. Like the deer who's make light contact with the forest floor. If you look at it, as big as their foot is, they don't have a lot on the ground at one time. They got the little pointed part of the toes, and they're not putting a lot of information. There's a lot of weight. They're small footprint, so they don't make a lot of noise. When you're walking in heel to toe, that makes a heavy sound. Take a look sometime as you're walking through a forest, if you're not hunting or whatever, or just walking through the yard. Just take a look at the sound that you're making as you're walking. And just imagine that being a strange sound to somebody else. And then try just walking a little bit differently and change the rhythm of your gait, so you break it up, take a few steps and then stop. If it's hard for you to walk toe to heel, then, try and set them down flat footed. If you can't do that, then, take a couple steps and stop, drag your feet or something, just to avoid that cadence of anything that sounds, man-made. The other thing you want to look at too is if you have any metal or hard plastic and you're walking through, that sound can make making noise, and that is not a normal sound. Bottom line, brushing past the oak stump or a tree is okay, but marching in cadence is not, because they're going to hear that. Things run into stumps and brush all the time. You want to walk into the wind. This is the first rule, because if you don't, the deer may smell you long before they hear you. If at all possible, you want to work the wind. You don't be thinking, well, I don't have to worry about the wind. Well, you may have to. So let's just say that you have this deer coming in. You're at full draw on a deer 10 yards away. The deer hears or sees some movement. Maybe you draw on your bow to get ready for the shot. They detected some kind of movement, because they're real good at detecting movement. And now the deer starts turning its head side to side, stomping its foot. What they're trying to do is they're trying to figure out what it was they seen. They don't know what it was they seen. It didn't alarm them. They just seen something. Now they're trying to figure it out. And maybe they can see your silhouette, and they're trying to determine, are you a threat, or is that just something that is strange, something that's different. And then you've got the wind in your face. It's all favorable. All of a sudden, the wind shifts, and now instead of being downwind, you're now upwind of the deer. They smell something, they snort and run off. That's what can happen if you don't play the wind. Now there are things that you can do, like your active charcoal suits, whether it be a chem suit, scent blocker, scent lock. There's several different companies that make those. Those help in eliminating your scent. And the other thing too is try and if you get up high enough, that wind switch is when it switches, it may carry your scent over the top of them, and they may not smell it. So there's a couple of things to get around that to help on the scent. So the next time, if they do catch that and do run off, the next time, go pick out a different path. If you're walking in, pick a different path so they don't learn your patterns, because the deer will pattern you. If you come in at the same time every day, the same way, they're going to pattern you, and they're going to know that you're coming in that time, and they're going to avoid you. So just like you're trying to pattern them, they're going to pattern you if they catch you. So I know there's, once say you archery stand hunting, and the deer comes and catches you in that tree stand, don't hunt that one for a while. Leave it alone, or just move complete to a different spot, because next time they come through, they caught something there. They're going to look up, and if they see you in there again, they're going to learn that, and now they're going to avoid that spot altogether. You're not going to be able to hunt that spot anyway. Same thing as you're walking in. If they catch you in a certain spot, then you need to figure out, why they caught you in that spot. Were you coming in a different way? Were they moving differently? It's all a game. Just test different things and see what works, what doesn't work. What you want to do is become, part of where you are, whether you're deer hunting or not. You just want to be there and enjoy nature. And that's some of the things that we want to make sure we get covered when we're out there, is just remember, you're out there to enjoy nature. Whether you get a shot at a deer or whatever you're hunting, yeah, isn't as big of a deal as just enjoying it. And one of the things that we can do to enjoy it is make sure our archery skills are up, where we know how to judge yardage, we know how to shoot, we know that we have the skill that if we know the distance, we're going to put that arrow exactly where we want it to go. And one of the things I offer to my listeners here is, I have an archery coaching program, and offer a free 15-minute consultation call to see whether or not coaching might be for you. See if it's something that I can help you with. I've been teaching archery for 25 plus years, so I have some techniques that work really well. And basically, it's the same techniques that your Olympic archers are using, to hit their spot. So I'll leave a link in the description below on a form that you can fill out, so I can get to know you a little bit better, and then get on the call with me, and let's see if we can give you those little extra skills, that little extra little bit that you can make, so that deer is that distance. You can hit it without worrying about, okay, am I gonna group good enough? Am my groups good enough, tight enough? Am I consistent enough to do this? So that's what we want to do. The other thing you can do is join the Archery Talk 101 Facebook group. I'll leave a link in the description below where you can go and join that group. There we have a lot of information for beginning archers as well as advanced archers. And it's a community where we all share information about different archery aspects, whether it's learning how to shoot better, your different, shooting better forms. And you can actually upload your shooting form to the group, and we'll take a look at it and give you some pointers, and that's free. And another place you can go for some information is archtalk101.com website. There I have information in there. There'll be links to different products that I've reviewed in there. Whether I like this item or not. There are other information in there, and shooting forms, shooting techniques, information on how to work on your own bows. A lot of information out there for that in that group. And once again, I'll leave a description a link to that in the description below. So once again, my name has been Roy Canterbury, and I've been your host today on Arch Talk 101.